There you go, friends. Doc South here, and well, I'm thinking back. Oh gosh, again, 30 years easily, maybe a little more than that. Back when I lived down in North Carolina, so that would have been, I think, the late 80s. Yeah, late 80s. I was a rescue person down there and worked with a very wonderful crew of people. And well, I don't know. We were hanging out at the squad hall, and the alarm comes in, and we had to get down to an auto wreck. And yeah, it was not a it was a bad enough wreck. At least there was no one dead, and that was nice. There was some injuries though, and some of them not so bad, and some that were obviously pretty painful. And and a crowd, like in many cases, this was in the town, and people gathered. And there's always people that like to. There's people that will help you if you're a duty crew, and there's people that will just watch you and make comments. Yeah, and we we didn't have too many of those that would help you in this case. And as it turns out, the people in the cars that were hurt were very big people. Yeah, it was like a load of. There was one or two people in there. It was kind of like, oh, what do you call it? Like polar bears in the car. It was. They were that big, and we're oh my God. And there's me. Look at me, skin and bones. I haven't gotten any really. Yeah, and my other guys were relatively small fellas too. Now we start, and some of these folks were going to have to be put on stretchers. Now we got one or two to sit in the ambulance. That was okay, but we had one guy that was really nailed, and he had received a fracture of the bone between your knee and your hip, and he was hurting. That's a bad bone to that's a rough bone to fracture, and it hurts like the devil. And you have to put a traction splint on it. It's kind of a splint that you attach down around the ankle, and you pull, and it kind of separates the bone so the edges aren't grinding inside underneath the flesh and everything. In other words, the guy's going to have an operation, but we've got to make it so that this is one case where he ain't walking nowhere, and we had to get him into the ambulance. And yet this guy was about 300 pounds, if not more, and he outweighed three of us put together. I think, yeah. Well, he certainly outweighed us by quite a bit. If you add the weight of the stretcher and the gurney and all that, yeah, we were in, and we're scratching our heads. I mean, again, look at me, skin and bones. Had one guy was smaller than me, another guy, he wasn't quite yet in the shape for lifting, and that's us. And there he is. And so there's a crowd around, and we holler to the crowd, is there anyone here could maybe help us get this fella into the ambulance? We really, really need your help. Could someone please help us? And the crowd all looks at each other, and then they look at us. And I remember two or three of the wise guys up front, and there's usually a wise guy or two in these crowds, says, well, that's what y'all get paid for. We said, yeah, but we'd like this. We got to get him in, and we don't want to hurt him. Can any of you please? Well, that's what you all get paid for. What do you guys think we are? And with that, this real big guy comes through the crowd, and he looks. He's one of the spectators, and he looks over at the guy that just made that comment. He says, Bob, come here. Bob comes over. Bob's looking like he might be getting put in the ambulance too real soon. And this guy says, you remember when I got in that fight with Big Mo down the but it was about 3 or 4 years ago. No, wait a minute. No, it was about it wasn't that long ago. You remember that? He says, yeah, I remember you. You got hit pretty hard. Yeah. He said, I wasn't laid out on no stretcher. Big Mo was on a stretcher, but we got. But you remember how you remember how bad I was hurt. You tell me now, yes or no. He says, yes, sir, I remember you were hurt pretty bad. He says, you know who came to get me and helped me into the ambulance and took good care of me all the way to the hospital? These people right here. In fact, the fellow you're looking at, you were just bad-mouthing. Well, I didn't mean to bad-mouth him. Yes, you did. You were big wise. You can imagine what he called him. Wise. Mm-hmm. And he says, now listen. He says, these people are good people. They're here to help. And we're all going to help them. Now, you over here, you over there, you on this side of the stretcher, you on that side of the stretcher, you boys, he's looking at us now, he says, you help us guide them in, you tell us when to lift, we'll be lifting, right? And he said, is that right? All the guys are going, huh? Because they knew the next ambulance was coming for them. Oddly enough, we got those injured people into the ambulance, just like those victims in, just as easy as pie. And of course, locked the gurneys into position. We thanked thanked that fella. He said, "That's all right." He says, "You have any trouble with anyone?" He says, "Here's my card." He says, "You just call me. I'll make a run. It'll be lights and siren for me too. And you're going to be needing another ambulance when I get a hold of the." You can just imagine. Well, we had to get going because those guys were in pain. And I remember thinking, well, as we're driving along, we're tending to the injured in the back as the ambulance is driving. Now, again, ambulances don't necessarily drive fast, generally. Because it's bad for the, you can drive fast to an incident, but once you got the injured on board, you don't like to do anything that make them even rattle them around or, heaven forbid, get them into another wreck. So we're going along pretty decent, a reasonable speed. And I said, my God, who is that fella? Oh man, he's the boss of the block. He says, you mess with him, he'll put you in your grave. He says, but he always liked you boys, the patient. He said, he said, you folks really treated him really nice when he was hurt. And I said, well, yeah, I hate to see the fella that hurt him. Yeah. And I think there was some comment made that once that big guy was feeling better for his incident, he evidently found the big guy that laid him low and the fight was on. I guess it was a draw. But yeah, I reasonably close to true, that story. I do remember the basic route there was this, you do a lot of good, you do all you can that's good, and you'd be surprised how often there'll be people coming right out of the crowd to give you a hand. You'd be surprised. Good people will do that. Good people will do that. If they won't come out of the crowd, you're better off doing the thing yourself. We could have got that guy in there. It would have been tough, but we could have done it. But heaven help us if we dropped the poor fellow. Heaven help him if we dropped him off the gurney. That wouldn't have been too good. But all in all, it was a couple of weeks later, we saw the guy hobbling down, the one injured fella kind of walking with his crutch, and just stopped and asked him how he was doing. He said he's doing fine. And I don't know. And we asked how that guy was who wouldn't help. And he said, well, he's still hiding out. He's hiding in his basement. but they're going to let him. We're going to let him walk the street pretty soon, one more time. Anyway, I'll see you later, friends. God bless. A reasonably true story. I am not too far off. We tried to get that guy to join the squad. He would have been a good member. Man, he would have been great on Saturday night with the bar fights. Oh man, so I think he was a bouncer. Yeah, and I'm sure he was a very good bouncer. Yes. Anyway, I'll see you later. God bless.